And we're live, Mr. Chair. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Finance, Audit, and Tendering Committee meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Is there any conflicts of interest?
None? No.
Okay. Can I get approval of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Ramsey. Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Adoption of the minutes from our last meeting there, February 9th and the 28th.
Yes.
Moved by Councillor. Thank you very much. Okay. Move into tenders. 5B, pending review of the land use and strategic plan. Tenders. Is there an update on that one, Nancy? Are you
Tina
on that one?
Tina will take the lead on that file. If you want, just give an update, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Tina, are you able to give an update on that one?
Hi everyone. I'm not going to turn my camera on because I'm still recovering. It did close. We had 5 very good proposals that were submitted. One unfortunately had to be rejected due to non-compliance. So we have 4 that we are in the process right now actually of reviewing and scoring. And we should still be on track to send things around to the various committees to meet the timeline that we discussed the last time we met.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, your worship. Yeah.
Deputy CEO, I'm looking at the deadline. It closed on March 3rd. And I looked at the tender several times, and the strategic plan, you have a 5-year, you have timelines. But when I looked at the official plan review, I didn't see a lot of meat in it, because that was the drive for this money, funds coming from the gas tax transfer, and this official review, or a comprehensive review of the official plan and zoning development bylaw. As you know, Deputy CEO, that when you do an official plan, that's the umbrella, and Councillor Duffy knows this quite well because as a former chair. But what feeds into that, what links into that, is the zoning development bylaw. Was that clearly? That didn't come out clearly to me in the tender. Could you explain, Deputy CEO?
Just for a point of clarification, it wasn't a tender; it was a request for proposals. Those very different connotations. Procurement.
I understand that. Sorry.
So the timing was for the strategic plan to obviously begin and have as much combination of public consultation, etc., to flow into the development of the official plan, as one is very much dependent on the other. In terms of actually the development of the bylaw that will flow out of the official plan, that is not part of this RFP. That will be undertaken after we get closer through and we have the official plan that's going through the process in place. That will be another project unto itself that will be developed, and the determination hasn't been made yet whether or not that will be handled in-house or farmed yet. So we need to see what flows out of the strategic planning and official planning process.
Again, Mr. Chair, I think, and the Deputy CEO recalls the conversation that we had late last fall, is that these were to run in tandem. It's now that the strategic plan is the overriding focus, and then the official plan will fall in after that. And Mr. Chair, along with, Mr. Chair, I think you sat in planning and development. 2014, there was an official review done of the plan, and I don't know if that was sent out as an addendum to the tender, but again, I think the focus of what the funds were designated for in the beginning, and maybe the CAO can clarify, but it was to do a comprehensive review of the official plan and all the linkages to it, including the zoning and development bylaw. And Councillor Brevard and Councillor Duffy understand that anyone that questions our zoning development bylaw always makes links to the official plan. So again, I just think that when we gave approval to this on November 29th, I thought the RFP would come back to council rather than for the standing committee. So, Mr. Chair, I guess we are where we are now, but I think we may have to tweak it as we go along, because it's very important that we do an official, a comprehensive review of the official plan and the zoning development bylaw, because those two are inseparable. And I know the deputy CAO comes from experience in this field. So again, we will have to tweak it as we go along. She's already stated, our deputy CEO has stated that, you know, we may do it in-house. Well, if we were going to do it in-house, it should have been done a long time ago. It should have been done before we got to this point. So I just leave that with you, Mr. Chair and committee members, and I will be following up on it, because this is a very important part of municipal legislation that is the foundation of the majority of funding that comes into this corporation through property taxes. So I leave that with you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Do you want me to respond to that?
I do, but Tina, just before you do, Your Worship, you do make a good point. The money that was earmarked for this project, and maybe Peter, I don't have it in front of me, maybe Peter would know, was it looking at the official plan as well, Peter, or what kind of emphasis were we going to put on that?
And Mr. Chair, the funds that we received were part and parcel of the OP, but also for the strategic plan. The bylaws, the bylaws that will fall from that under the OP obviously will be part of that review process, because once we do the OP, then the bylaws under that will have to be changed to reflect whatever council wants to do. And you are right, Your Worship, we did expand the OP and discussion to include the strategic plan once Tina brought the proposal forward. Council bought into that, and that's why we're at today, Your Worship.
Mr. Chair, could we get a response from the Deputy CAO? I know we don't want to take too much time, but again, I will be watching this whole process closely, because this is such an important municipal piece of legislation for this city, because it was passed in 1999 and it was actually developed in 1997, started in 1994. So this definitely needs a major overhaul. I yield to the Deputy CAO. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So there's a few things there. First and foremost, yes, the primary focus is still the official planning process. But in order to do that properly, as has been explained repeatedly, you do need a strategic plan in place. And our funding partners are very much on board and support that way of thinking and that way of proceeding. In terms of the timing, the strategic plan was always going to have to be somewhat ahead of the meat of the official planning process, and it was always described as running tandem in terms of public engagement, which it is. As stated previously on several occasions, the public engagement process and stakeholder involvement process that begins right out of the gate will inform both the strategic plan and the official planning process. That is very, very clear, and it's very, very clear in all the proposals that have come forward. All the proposals that have come forward meet those requirements. They understand the coordination of efforts so that both of those plans are being informed and for cost effectiveness. And in terms of an official planning process, as you can attest, you need to have the official plan in place first and approved before you start developing any bylaws that flow from that plan. That's how it works. So we need to have the strategic plan in place, the official plan in place, and then work on the development of the bylaws. And there's also considerations in terms of how we have to modify some of the secondary plans that you already have in place based on the official planning process. Hopefully that's answered your inquiries and concerns.
Mr. Chair, I understand the process. I I've been a former chair of the Planning, Development and Heritage Standing Committee, along with Councillor Rivard, including Councillor Duffy. So I understand the process, Deputy CAO. It's just that initially the monies were set aside to look at the a comprehensive review of the development of the official plan and everything that flows into that. Mr. Chair, I know this discussion has gone along far enough, but I will come back to it in a future meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we can move on to 5C, tenders that are posted but haven't closed yet. We got 2 sidewalk tractors and attachments, closes on the 15th. Any clarification needed on that one?
There's really not a lot to add, except that these are, just to note that this is part of the 2022-23 capital budget.
Okay. Engineering design services, sidewalk and multi-purpose paved pathways, closed on the same day, the 15th. Just the committee. Okay. Go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, sorry. This is engineering work for various public works capital projects, again, for the 2022 capital budget. The 22-23 capital budget.
Okay. Supply and delivery of
The mayor has a question, Deputy Mayor.
oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Your Worship. Sorry.
Nancy,
so
or
Councillor
our
Ramsey.
active manager of finance, I'm looking for the backgrounder for the engineering design services. So we're going out to tender for that, correct?
That's right.
It's already
So-
gone out. It's already gone out, Your
Typically,
Worship.
the backgrounder comes with the resolution once it's going to council. Once it comes to the finance committee, there will be a recommendation, and that's typically when the backgrounder comes in.
So, Mr. Chair, could I just get a clarification? We did go out to tender for engineering services on public works projects, and we keep getting these change orders about specific projects. Is that correct, manager or acting manager of finance?
That is correct, and will be addressed very shortly.
In terms of address that, when we'll do a review of it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And
Okay.
Councillor Ramsey has a question too, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Ramsey.
You're unmuted, Councillor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
No, I'm good now. I think the mayor just asked that. So these are only tenders that are going out, correct?
That's right. They're posted, but they're not yet closed.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Good, Dix.
Okay. Any updates or comments on the intersection lighting equipment? Do we need?
No.
We're okay there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move into 6 budget transfers. First one is Parks and Rec. It's $2,000. That is attached here. If there's any questions or if there's any additional comments that we need, Nancy?
No, not really. This just appears it was a special project, and it went over. It was a tad over budget, $2,000 once the final invoice came in. So they're just accounting for that to make sure that the books are all in order.
Okay. Move on. The next one is a budget transfer for 10,000. Any?
Well, actually, we'll deal with the 3 of them all together because the account and Mr. Mayor, if you have further comment, feel free to
I do.
step in. Absolutely, maybe you
Could
could go.
Mr. Chair, over the last 3 months, we have been without an administrative assistant. I think someone is starting coming this Monday. So I have to give a big shout out to our admin assistant to the DCAO, Cindy McMillan, and also the admin assistant to our CAO, Mr. Kelly, Chantel Matheson. Both of them have been trying to manage these accounts, or this account, along with all their other work. And I spoke to both of them this morning. These transfers are adding no increase to the overall budget, but it's the definition of some of the line items, I think is broad enough to cover what has been done on these unforeseen events. And an unforeseen event could be, for example, a promotional request was sent to the coldest night of the year. We provided promotional money for the event. There are monies that go out for wakes, for floral contributions or a donation. So a lot of these unforeseen events is a broad area, just like what we have in the line items for all the budgets. So I just wanted to clarify. And again, if acting manager of finance has any more to add, that's where we're at with these transfers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, I just a small further comment. That's absolutely correct. Some of these, and I think COVID had a lot to do with it too. For example, some of the funds are moved from the Christmas campaign, so I'm sure that played out a whole lot differently than what was anticipated when the budgets were being done last year. So, but to counter that, Mr. Mayor, you've probably made donations or small gestures to organizations over the Christmas holidays or something to do with that may be now in the unforeseen events, or those kinds of small transactions. So that's what drove up the unforeseen events, and we have covered off those expenditures from low balances from other budgeted accounts. So all in all, the overall mayor and council budget has in no way increased on a cumulative level. It's just switching the money around, which we do all the time when these things happen. That's
Mr. Chair, and if I could just echo our acting manager of finance, that is correct. But in the past, as Councillor Ramsey recalls, our former admin assistant, Jill Stewart, knew where everything was going. She didn't really, I've never seen a transfer, rarely have I seen a transfer within the mayor and council budget, but the two admin assistants that are overseeing it now, as they said, they're trying to accommodate what I'm doing down here, answering phone calls, going down to the door to escort people up to the second floor. Those duties normally would be the responsibility of the admin assistant, who has not been here in the last 3 months. But again, a big thanks to admin assistant Cindy McMillan and admin assistant Chantel Matheson for holding everything together. Thank you.
Okay, so we're okay with the budget transfers. Okay, we just need a motion to move into closed session as per section 119.1 subsection E.
So Councillor
We
Ramsey,
okay with-
Councillor Ramsey and Councillor Duffy looks like they moved in second, Mr. Chair.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just stand
okay.
by. Just stand by,
so,
please. Just stand by.
Okay.